number 5.
Item number 5 on the other paper. Motion for resolution of Parliament urging government to formulate a policy on free compulsory boarding school education for the Karamoja Sub-Region.
Honorable Achia, and I want to take this opportunity to welcome the Right Honorable Speaker who has joined us for this session.
Right Honorable Speaker, my dear colleagues, I stand here to present a motion for a resolution of Parliament urging government to formulate a policy on free compulsory boarding schools education for the Karamoja Sub-Region. I am moving this motion under Rule 56 of the Rules of Procedure of our Parliament. Mr. Speaker, sir, whereas the Karamoja Sub-Region is located in the northeastern part of northern Uganda, covering about 28,000 square kilometers and characterized by a semi-arid climate with erratic rainfall and a population of about 1.4 million people out of the national population of about 46 million people, as per the 2024 national census. And whereas the Karamoja Sub-Region has traditionally experienced low literacy levels, with 66% of the population not having any form of formal education. High school dropout rate, which is largely attributable to the high school dropout rate caused by the inability to afford scholastic materials, the lack of supportive school feeding program, the long walking distances, the cultural chores like livestock farming, digging, and historical injustices against the Karamoja Sub-Region. Noting that the high school dropout rates at primary level has resulted into a minimal secondary school gross enrollment rate, which stands only at 19%, and the lowest adult literacy rate of 25% as per the 2019-2020, compared to the national average of 73% general enrollment rate. For instance, if you compare Karamoja to the rest of Uganda, the general enrollment rate for Kampala is 92%, for Buganda South is 83%, and for Ankole, for example, is 79%, but for the Karamoja Sub-Region, it stands at the bottom of the table. Further noting that many of the male school dropouts end up being recruited into warriorhood, cattle rustling, and armed violence, while the female school dropouts end up in early marriages or as child mothers, which has contributed to Karamoja's having very high indicators of maternal mortality, child mortality, and under 5 mortality rates. Concerned that Karamoja's struggle with the cyclical insecurity is attributed to its low rate of education, household poverty, and many children of school-going age from 3 to 18 years are generally always integrated in the livestock herding economy, taking care of livestock and experiencing the vagaries of conflict, and ultimately taking roles in either defending their livestock or participating in revenge expeditions, and most often becomes the victims and perpetrators of conflict. Further concerned that the human and economic costs of dealing with insecurity in Karamoja far outstrips the costs to the national economy of implementing high-quality education. In the decade, for example, until 2010, Karamoja lost about 80% of its herd to insecurity. When insecurity returned in 2019, as mentioned by Honorable Nakut yesterday, a district like Kabong lost nearly all its herd to insecurity to cattle raids. Therefore, investments into education is a direct investment in national economic growth. It's an investment in stabilizing the region and security, and it also cuts off the young generation of young boys from participating in criminal activities. Aware that with government intervention through the UPA and USC, as well as the free compulsory boarding school program in some schools in Karamoja Sub-Region, Mr. Speaker, the literacy rate for the boy child recently has risen by 7% between 2016 and 2020 because of the investments which were done then, but that of the girl child has only risen by 1.3%. And out of this total primary school enrollment of both boys and girls, only 12% of the girls make it to secondary schools out of the 100%. For every 100 girls, only 12% make it to secondary school. Recognizing that the Constitution in Article 30 and 34 enshrines a child's right to basic education and obligates the state to provide it together with the parents. And the same is buttressed by the Sustainable Development Goals, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, as well as the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Further recognizing that whereas there are policies on UP and USC, there is no complementary policy on free compulsory boarding school education, specifically for the Karamoja region, given its unique historical injustices, vulnerable nature, and other reasons. Realizing that there is need for a full-fledged policy on compulsory free boarding school education to boost the education of children in the Karamoja Sub-Region, and to complement and strengthen the existing structures that offer free compulsory boarding education. Further acknowledging that providing quality education in Karamoja Sub-Region requires long-term, comprehensive, and coordinated government effort. Now, therefore, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, be it resolved that A, government formulates a policy on free compulsory boarding school education for Karamoja Sub-Region. B, the implementation of the policy should be fast-tracked in the Karamoja Sub-Region and other regions of the country with the low literacy levels. And C, that government strengthens the existing structures and framework on free compulsory boarding school education for the Karamoja Sub-Region. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, I beg to move.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded? Honorable Abraham Peterken, I see Honorable Ngwai, I see Honorable Lokii John Baptist, Minister for Karamoja, Honorable Lokeris, Honorable again, Babik, Honorable Ochero. The whole house is seconding the motion. Yeah. Honorable Cyrus Awagon, Honorable Bganika, Tochi. Yes, Honorable. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker and colleagues, I move this motion, Mr. Speaker, to address two fundamental matters. One, that the government of Uganda, we have not had for a long time a policy on compulsory boarding education. Number two, this policy is actually the next level of the disarmament we are talking about in Karamoja, the mental disarmament. Colleagues, most of you may not know that Karamoja, since the coming of colonials into Uganda, was not provided with any form of education. In 1898, when the British came to Karamoja, they encountered the people of Chekwii in Napak District, and one of them, who was trying to rape one of the women, was killed, called John Patrick. From that time, Karamoja was closed and made a human zoo. There was no education until at independence in 1961, when the first secondary school was built in Moroto High School. So Karamoja is starting on a road that the rest of the country has run for 100 years. Most of you come from constituents, even here in Acholi, that there are schools celebrating 100 years. We are just beginning education in Karamoja. Recently, a number up to today, a number of parishes, Mr. Speaker, do not have primary schools. When the first lady came to Karamoja, about 13 primary boarding schools were built in 2013, 2016. And because of that boarding school program, that the first lady and school feeding program, suddenly, the enrollment rate started rising. I mentioned in my motion that even the transition rate from primary to secondary, especially for the boy child, jumped very high by 7%. Unfortunately for the girl child, the statistics we have from Uganda Bureau of Statistics today show that for the girl child, it only jumped by 1.3%. So for every 100 children in Karamoja, today, for the girls, for every 100 girls that go to P1, only 12 finish primary 7 and go to secondary. And for the boys, 25 of them finish primary and go to secondary school. Where do the rest go? Mr. Speaker and colleagues, there is another recruitment program that goes on in Karamoja, and some of us are the survivors of that recruitment. When a boy child is born, they initiate you like you take a child for baptism. They initiate you into looking after goats, looking after calves, going to the kraal, and to a lifestyle that prepares you generally for warriorhood, to be a man, as we call it, to be initiated into another life. Just like the church does confirmation when you reach a certain age, the Karamoja also confirm the young boys, the Karashuna, the one you call, into a different lifestyle. This motion, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, is the next level of disarmament. We have done the physical disarmament, the removal of guns in the hands of our young people. Most of them are under 18 years. But the biggest population, the young men and those who are coming, are not mentally disarmed. General Lulu talked about it on his speech in Moroto. We need to move to the next level of disarmament, the mental disarmament and mindset change. And colleagues and the Right Honorable Speaker, if the country can accept to give us free compulsory boarding education, and this is a security matter, colleagues, because of these young men who are recruiting this reckless lifestyle of running around, the people of Acholi have suffered, the people of Lango have suffered, the people of Teso have suffered, the people of Bugishu have suffered, people of Sebei have suffered, and they are also suffering because of the impact of South Sudanese, Turkana, Kenyans. The cows they pick from this region, they don't all stay in Karamoja. They end up in South Sudan. They end up in Kenya. There is a constant and violent conflict that happens in Karamoja because of the lifestyle that people, they don't think of any other form of lifestyle. And this, if it is implemented, it should be an operational matter. It should be looked at from the security point of view. We must stop this recklessness by ensuring that our young boys go to school, and this will disarm them mentally. This idea of removing guns is like me. If I lose this pen, I know how to read and write. All these MPs here, including me, you think we don't know how to use those guns? That's the fact that I don't have it doesn't mean I don't know how to use it. The fact that you don't have this pen doesn't mean that you don't know how to use it. We need the next level of disarmament. And that means we must create an operation where even our security forces are involved in ensuring that we provide facilities for these young men to be retained in school and continue with education. The second aspect, before I sit down, Mr. Speaker and colleagues, is that for the girl child it is worse. Most girls are married off at 14, at 15 for cows. And what happens? A child goes to produce another child. And if you look at the statistics, the maternal mortality rate in Karamoja is 558 today per 1,000. And what is the figure for the country? 36. 36 per 1,000. In Karamoja, young children who are forced to be mothers die 558 for every 1,000 die. For the country average, it's 36. So these early marriages also as a dimension of worsening the infant mortality, the under 5 mortality, the maternal mortality, and all other health-related issues. By doing this, we can delay the marriage time for the young girls, address the question of insecurity permanently, address the question of health permanently, and cause a change for that part of the country, and also the rest of the neighbors to rest. Colleagues, support me in this motion. Let's work together to change permanently the situation in Karamoja and the situation in that part of the country. I'd like to submit, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Achia. Abraham Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I rise to amend the motion, I would like to also make a substantive contribution. Mr. Speaker, peace in Karamoja is a prerequisite for socio-economic transformation in the neighborhood. Like Father Onen said here, for long we said Karamoja, we cannot wait for Karamoja. And because we did not wait for Karamoja, our neighbors have suffered. And I think it's now time that we move together. Mr. Speaker, in the 1960s, it's on record that the Kabaka, Mutesa, sacrificed his whole salary as a king to support education in Karamoja. It's on record. It's also on record that the likes of the Honorable Pulukol, that again Father Onen tried to allude to, went to school through force. The parish chiefs at that time, the Nyamparas, would collect children and take them to school forcefully. But these were not government schools. These were church schools. My late father used to tell me that he would walk from Kotido on Saturday, be in school on Sunday, attend classes up to Wednesday, and walk back to Kotido because there were no boarding schools. And that was Lotome in Napak District. Now, given all these circumstances, Mr. Speaker, we made an effort as Karamojong. We introduced something called alternative basic education for Karamoja. We thought that we needed to help the learners to continue to do their work. Because one thing we found out was that if you remove the boy child or a girl child from the household to take to school, there would be a disequilibrium of labor because each of them has a role to perform. So ABEC was introduced to allow the herds boys to study in the morning after milking the animals before they graze. They go to graze, and in the evening. That recorded progress because we produced graduates out of ABEC. Unfortunately, conflicts in the region, cattle rustling, could not allow the mobile school to continue. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make the following amendments to the motion. That besides the idea of having a policy on free and compulsory education, we also would like to urge government to support the Karamoja Peace and Technology University to build a chain to support the education in Karamoja. Karamoja Peace and Technology University is a university that for the first time is going to be established, or is in Karamoja, with the support of the Catholic Church, the International Catholic Lawyers Association, and the Government of Uganda. And President Museveni is the founding chancellor. Now, why should this university be adopted or be included in this motion? As already submitted by the move of the motion, the children of Karamoja need to get to the schools. But there's also need to have the schools that will pick on them. Like Father Onen was saying, where did this educated Karamojong come from? People studied outside Karamoja. And those who studied outside Karamoja were children of chiefs. Those of us whose parents were not chiefs. I remember for 2 years, I used to ride a bicycle from Kotido to NTC Ngeta in order to be in school. How many Karamojong can do that now? So, Mr. Speaker, my proposal to amend the motion is to add the words that to also urge the government to support the Karamoja Peace and Technology University in Karamoja, because it's going to be a catalyst of mindset change. It's going to be a catalyst of economic transformation. And we believe that in the next 10 years, we will have taken 350,000 school-going age children to school, and that will be the joy of Father Onen, because there will then be more Christians coming to seek for penance and prayers from Father Onen. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Norman Ochero.
Mr. Speaker, I apologize for my late attempt to speak before you had given me permission, sir. Mr. Speaker, I want just to add some critical information to a greater need for supporting education in Karamoja. Mr. Speaker, insecurity in Karamoja has taken a bit of time. Mr. Speaker and members, successive governments had made a lot of attempts to bring peace in Karamoja. Mr. Speaker, I want to concentrate on why has there been failure. Government after government failed to bring peace in Karamoja. Mr. Speaker and members, the insecurity of Karamoja is caused by the known people. Why it is complicated is it's being caused by people who are known. Why do I say they are known? It is easy to predict who will be a warrior. It is easy to predict because there's a roadblock. You reach a point, either you go to school or you become a raider. There are only two ways in Karamoja. Either you go to school or you become a warrior. You know the function of a warrior. There, no business, no what, no farming, there's drought, everything is in total confusion. So the only chance left is either you go to school and become members here, or you branch to the other school and begin raiding. Now, Mr. Speaker, which means we already know who are the incoming candidates, for raiding. Mr. Speaker, these are young children who will fail to go to school. Mr. Speaker, when you hear the Karamojong members of parliament are asking, educate all the Karamojong, that is what they're meaning. They are putting the road into one so that everybody goes to educate themselves and therefore they don't raid. Which means the solution to the problem of Karamoja is one of the simplest, but there will be lack of commitment. Mr. Speaker, we are here to seek for commitment. One, once you educate all the Karamojong and Karamoja become peaceful, Mr. Speaker, you will have solved big problems in Acholi, you will have solved big problems in Lango, you will have rescued the Bateso, you will have sorted the Bagisu, and Basebe also, including international neighbors, they will be resting. Mr. Speaker, it is cheaper to educate the Karamojong so that peace is in Karamoja to make all neighbors rest. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice that KAPATU University, Karamoja University Peace and Technology, is sensitive, has been tailor-made in order to suit the circumstances in Karamoja at the moment. You can have all these universities, Karamoja will never go there. But KAPATU is a new university being developed, arising out of the situation in the region. It is my prayer, Mr. Speaker and members, that for this parliament and the record that they have sorted the problem of Karamoja by educating the Karamojong. So I support that KAPATU University be supported by Government of Uganda so that it can answer the precurrent problems in the region. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Norman, this is what the President was talking about yesterday when he was saying we support him on his efforts for free education. Now what we are waiting for is a blueprint from government on which kind of support they want from Parliament. Is it budgetary support? They are going to propose, put money in the budget?
Budgetary support.
You know? So we are waiting for government to guide it. Minister of Education? Nakut Faith.
Right Honorable Speaker, I stand to second this motion to give access to free and compulsory education to all the children in Karamoja. In Karamoja, the biggest burden of household welfare is shouldered by the women. She must ensure that there is food, she must ensure there is a home, and she must ensure that the children go to school. So you can imagine the burden our women are carrying. When she is overwhelmed, the children automatically support her. They become laborers. The rate of child labor in our region is so high. When they are overwhelmed, they end up in the streets begging. The children do it to support their mothers. We have repatriated a number of our children from the cities in our country. 2 years ago, there were women and children here in Gulu City coming from Kotido. About 60 of them, they had come to look for a living. We sent them back to Kotido. There was another group that came from Kabong to Busia. We sent them back when they were there to Kabong. There are thousands of the children from Napak who are begging in Kampala. The reason is this one. The women, the mothers, because of the cultural dynamics, the mothers are overwhelmed. They cannot afford both household welfare and plus now education, the cost of education itself. I support this motion and I appeal that you support us in this one, honorable colleagues. When you do it, you will liberate not just the children who cannot access an education at the moment, but also the women, so that they will be able to focus their energy on the other welfare needs. Because the burden of tuition, in addition to what they're already carrying, is too much. I plead with you, colleagues, that we allow this to pass. It will be good for the region. For every woman in Karamoja who doesn't access an income or even a living to sustain this burden, that burden is multiplied by 6 because we produce 6 children. And then you produce 6 children who will also be poor. Another one, so you will also produce. The multiplier effect on the economic burden for this country is so high if we cannot have these children access an education. I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Crowell Bosco. Honorable items. Mr. for Karamoja, 3 minutes.
Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, I will be speaking to tell you an example of a person who comes to school and gets that there was a boarding school and he starts fearing to go home, and now he's a minister. The first time myself, one time, my own father told me to drive a bull with him to go and sell in order for him to pay poll tax at that time. So we moved. In the morning we passed near, I think that was then a school, where I saw children, very many. Then I asked my father, I said, where are these children, too many here, near Mabati houses? He said, there is something called a school. A school? Yes. What will they become in the future? He told me, these people, when they will study, when they grow up, they become drivers, they become chiefs. I mean, he said, like the chiefs who have forced you to bring the bull here. Yes. I said, that's very good. Then they say, in the evening, when now they rest, they go and take tea. He used to give me some tea, something like chai, and it was very sweet. When I had, I said, yes, I will come here because of the tea to study with these people. Imagine, from that time, we went back. I asked him, I want to go. He was delaying. I decided to run away myself. When I went there, I was welcomed. There was a boarding school by the missionaries. I started staying there. It was only 1 month. They said there is all day. I said, now where will I go? Those people will beat me for having abandoned their cows. Then the priest told me, no, they are building a church here. You come and help in carrying bricks. I was young. I would only carry 2. So all the time I was there, I stayed with them very well. If there was no school of that type, where you come freely, you eat, you sleep boarding, I wouldn't be here. And from that time, I continued. In fact, I didn't pay any school fees up to senior 4. Up to senior 4, the rest came by themselves. So, to say for Karamoja, pre-primary and boarding education is very important. All these people who are now running around, if they were educated like us, they wouldn't be there. We would have reduced raiders completely. So now, the rest of the country is moving. We better move the country together in a unified manner. In maybe 20 years' time, when there is mindset change, then other things can now relax. But by now, it is high time we sweep all of them from the villages and we educate them, give them free and compulsory education. The whole country will just be safe, automatic. You change their mind and we move. These people are getting jobs, they are getting alternative ways of livelihood, and that will be the end.
Thank you,
and I am very happy all of you are supporting. We are Ugandan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, Honourable Minister, because you see, this is a motion. Please take your seat. Yes. This is a motion where we are limited by the law as Parliament, Article 93 of the Constitution. That's why you're seeing it's a motion for urging, meaning we are sending it to you in Cabinet. So when you reach in Cabinet, please give that example you've had and push harder so that it can be supported, as it has a financial implication. Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I rise to second the motion under Rule 60, Sub-Rule 1, a motion for a resolution of Parliament urging government to formulate a policy on free compulsory boarding school education for the Karamoja Sub-Region. I want to thank Honorable Remigio for moving this motion and honorable colleagues for supporting. Right Honorable Speaker, we are moving this motion for a region whose development indices are very, very low. Talk about education, is very low, coverage, the percentage is very low. Health, water, roads, name them, they are very low. The only indices that are high is illiteracy in the region and insecurity, including poverty, which stands at nearly 70% of the people in Karamoja are in extreme poverty. The illiteracy level in Karamoja stands at 66. And Right Honorable Speaker, we cannot just sit and observe part of Uganda remaining lagging behind when the rest of the country is moving forward in as far as education and other aspects of development are concerned. Leaving Karamoja behind has a pull-down effect on the rest of the country. So we must team together and pull this child called Karamoja, which is still lagging behind. And we can only do this on 2 approaches. The first approach is affirmative action, as enshrined in Article 32(1). Affirmative action for Karamoja as far as education is concerned. And then the rights-based approach, as embedded in Article 30 and Article 34, Clause 1, that every child of school-going age has a right to education. Right Honorable Speaker, some people might argue that we have UPE, we have USE. Why hasn't Karamoja utilized these policies, existing policies, government policies? We are saying yes, the government policy of having a primary school per parish is there. The government policy of having a secondary school per sub-county is there. But when you look at the dynamics therein, you find the distances covered by the learners, these young learners, commuting from their homes to the schools, to either primary school or a secondary school. These are considerable distances which cannot be managed by the learners. So we are saying, if government can have a policy, if we can have a policy to enhance primary boarding education, secondary school education, these young learners can remain at school, stay at school, and finish their education smoothly. There is a destructive effect of moving from your home to school. Along the way, it contributes to absenteeism and increases the dropout rate of the young learners. So having boarding schools for Karamoja Sub-Region will address this issue. Right, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable, conclude.
Honorable Speaker, we have the practice of female genital mutilation, which is being practiced among the Pokot of Hamudat and among the Tepeth of Moroto District. These children are always in the villages and they are prone to this practice of FGM. So having boarding schools will enable these children to come and stay at school and get profitable education. So, Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, I implore you to support this motion so that government formulates a policy for boarding school education in Karamoja, so that the problems of Karamoja, being it economic, being it education, being it in terms of service delivery, in as far as education is concerned, are addressed once and for all. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you.